Here we go again with Snap Tackle Pod. Thanks for being with us. I'm Mick Shaffer of 41 Action News. This guy right here is Dion Clisso of PrepsKC. What's going on, Dion?
It's couldn't tell him with PrepsKC.
Okay? It's quarter zip weather.
Well, I just threw the sweatshirt on.
You're a hoodie. You're a Belichick guy.
Well, I'm not. I'm a quarter zip guy, but I have one quarter zip that's PrepsKC, so I kind of pick my spots with that. And my basement, it's always fall in my basement, so it's always. I mean, I will work down here on Friday nights with a sweatshirt on. It's about 9:30, 10 o'clock, even in the middle of the summer. I've got a sweatshirt on, so I got to stay warm.
Your basement / the world headquarters.
Yes.
Of PrepsKC.
Yes, the studio. This is the studio portion right here.
Nice.
So yeah, no, it's that's one of the beauties of our house is that it stays cool in the basement year round, and so it's always cool. Even when I'm in a short sleeve, polo or something like that. By the end of the day, if it's getting cool outside, then I got to throw on a sweatshirt.
All right, so here's the deal. Every year we remark on how quickly the season goes. I'm going to say it again this year. It seems like it's moving along even quicker this year. We're in week 6 in Missouri, week 5 in Kansas. The playoffs are just over the horizon again. Cross your fingers on those playoffs, but it's moved along once again this year, and that's a good thing, I guess, that we're here at this point in the season and talking about all the football that's been played.
Yeah, you can start to smell the playoffs at this point. This is if you're a team that's really good. You're just saying, hey, let's just keep playing well, take care of our business, don't get hurt at this point. And if you're a team that's struggling, this is the grind. This is the part where you figure out, are you going to kind of turn things around and get going, or is this the part where you're just like, well, we're in week 6, week 5, we got about 3 more weeks to go here, and then we're done. We can get out of this thing here. So this is the grind part of the season that everybody has to go through, and we get some good games. There's no doubt. I mean, you get some good matchups, and in fact. You get some games you didn't know you'd have the week before. So it's always interesting to see. And there's been a bit of a flurry again this week. And my schedule update changes, which I update seems like every day now. I try to update, when I know something for sure, and then things change even on that sense too. So got some different games out there this week, highlighted by Maryville and Odessa playing each other.
That's great.
Due to some COVID issues. And those are 2 Class 3 state champions, from the last few years going at it. And so that'll be a fun one for everybody down there in Odessa and Maryville.
So Maryville and we have Odessa. What other games are we catching on the fly here?
Okay, well, Leavenworth and Lansing are not playing. I think there were some concerns. Lansing may have had some issues with some exposure, some cases. The football team was cleared, was going to play. They were literally off, then on, and off again in the span of less than 24 hours. And so Leavenworth is just going to sit the week out.
I have an idea for you. I have an idea, and I want 10% of your earnings. Write a book about this season, okay? And you just have to be the Kansas City metro area, maybe include, all of Missouri and all of Kansas. You could write a book about all the stories that we've heard this year. How about Lewisburg playing with 14 players last week?
Yeah, so they were down to hardly anybody left and played pretty tough in that game.
They almost beat a really good Piper team.
Yes.
14.
Yeah, so and like DeSoto was set to play Spring Hill. I guess Spring Hill has a positive case, or they're in quarantine. So DeSoto's looking to play McPherson. McPherson was actually playing Leavenworth for about 4 hours yesterday. So that got switched around. I was emailing with Matt Webb, the Maryville coach, and he's like, what do you think about this team? What do you think about that team? I hear this, I hear that. And I was like, well, I think this would be a good game for you, and that kind of thing. So it was all over the place, and who knows how the week's going to end up. But some weeks are more like that than others, and this was just one of those weeks where what caused the Maryville Odessa game is Warrensburg has a positive case, and so they're set down. They were going to play Odessa, and Center, who played Warrensburg last week, they're quarantining now because they played against them. So now Harrisville had to go find them. They're playing McDonald County, which as of right now, don't know. I know what their logo is.
Where is McDonald County?
I'm thinking South Central, maybe. I don't know. Let me do this way. As we're recording this, that's so fresh. I went and found their logo and get that up on the screen. I'll look and see where they are when I go look for their roster here in a little bit.
And we're recording this on a Wednesday, so all those might be moot points by the time it's Thursday or Friday.
There's probably going to be maybe 1 or 2 more by the time you get to Friday. That's why, if you haven't noticed, we have these schedule updates right on the front of the page, and I just keep updating it all season long.
I mean, you have so many. You had Goodland, Kansas, where the entire coaching staff was in quarantine a few weeks ago. So the AD and the superintendent came down and they coached the game. You had Bueller a few weeks ago, also in Kansas, on a Friday afternoon tweeting out, looking for an opponent, using Twitter to look for an opponent that night.
I talked to Jason West from Misha, who's their public relations guy, kind of little jack of all trades there at Misha.
Yeah.
He was on Friday. He's like, Poplar Bluff's looking for somebody, and I go, dude. I was like, hopefully they're gonna travel and willing to play on a Saturday, because I don't think anybody at 3:00 in the afternoon is gonna get on a bus and drive to Poplar Bluff. So yeah, no, that's how. And I don't think Poplar Bluff ended up playing last week. So there is a little bit of that. There's some Thursday, Friday. Let's find a game. Let's do that. And it is crazy. But one thing, and you can knock on wood on this, I have not heard of Team X playing Team Y, and Team X having a case of somebody and then Team Y getting it. So that there is no cross-team transmission. It's just somebody in the school gets it, somebody on the team gets it, they're hanging around each other. There's a lot more of that extended. I mean, your son plays football. If there's somebody in his position group that gets it, there's a chance that he's going to be exposed. He will be exposed, and there's a chance that he may get it. I mean, that's just the nature of how they're together.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Snap Tackle Pod. I'm Mick Shaffer, Dion Clisso joining us as well. All right, so do we know who the best team on the Missouri side is yet? We thought maybe Ray Peck, but then, I mean, obviously a tough game against Lee Summit West. They get the victory. Lee Summit West, are they the new team?
I said Liberty. Liberty's the most consistent team at this point.
Liberty's really good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they've been consistent. You know, they've got a really good tailback in Wintrick Williams, and Smith, their quarterback, he just does everything. You know, just kind of puts them in the right position to win games. And defensively, they're really solid, and they play well in the fourth quarter. So they're not flashy. They're not, going to come out and oh wow, look at. But they just come out and they win games. They're playing really well, and they should cruise until week 8 when they play Ray Peck, and then maybe North Kansas City the last week of the season. That's a little sneaky game that if you're Liberty and if you get a good win over Ray Peck, or if you come out on a loss on Ray Peck, you got to be careful that whatever happens that last week, you don't get caught slipping there in that situation. But no, Liberty's pretty good. I tell you, Rockers are playing really well. They were impressive over Bishop Miege last week, and they're getting it together. Lee Summit West, I mean, hats off to them. They came out, played a great game, and they coming off a Liberty loss. So I mean, I think those are 4 teams that are ranked.
I think there's 4 or 5 teams, that could make a run and be the best team and end up with the hardware this year. I think it's an exciting race on the Missouri side.
Yeah, and even though Lee Summit North team is out there, it's kind of dangerous. Liberty North is now 2-2 after Southern 0-2, but there's landmines out there. I mean, there's games. Blue Springs got off to an 0-2 start and looked like they'd be lucky to sniff a win, and they go and they beat Staley and Park Hill in back-to-back weeks. And so you don't know exactly who they are. I mean, and then they get crushed by Liberty North. So that's one of those things. You got to be careful if you're a Class 6 school of those little landmines that are out there during the regular season. And if you're going to have the bad week, have it during the regular season, because those two district, all the Kansas City teams go into 2 districts: Liberty North, Blue Springs South go into 1 district, and then the Ray Pecks and the Rockhurst and Park Hill and all them going to another. So there's some tough games out there, and it's definitely, you got to be careful each week. And you go down to Class 5, and geez, I don't know, Grand Valley looks pretty good. Platte County, North Kansas City can beat anybody. Staley's showing signs of life, so you want to be careful with them. So it's crazy in those 2 classes.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think the COVID and the summer and what you did do and what you didn't do. Yeah. Maybe muddied the waters, or at least brought everybody, I think, closer together. At least that's my interpretation so far. That we're talking about, okay, does it separate teams? It seems like maybe it's brought the pack closer together. How about this? What do you make of the Blue Valley teams? Because they go into COVID and they come out, and it's kind of a totally different thing. Blue Valley Northwest, which finished last in the EKL last year, they might be the best of the bunch.
Well, and the one thing about Blue Valley Northwest is, if you kind of paid attention last year, they were better and they had nothing to show for it. They were kind of in the same spot Blue Valley West was in a couple of years ago, where they won like 1 or 2 games. And if you saw them on film or caught some of their stat lines and watched them, just how the games were. And they're one of the schools that use our digital scout platform. So you can really kind of see play by play and ebb and flow of their games. They were getting better. And then they kind of broke through last 2 years and had played really good football and were a really good team. And we've talked about this before, had Olathe North on the ropes and took them to OT in the playoffs. I mean, that's a pretty solid team. Northwest was kind of like that last year. They've got a now junior quarterback in Mikey Pauley, who's putting up great numbers. And a lot of these kids there's a lot of sophomores that played the last year, and some juniors or some seniors that played since they were sophomores. So this is a group that's really kind of come together. Think about like Shawnee Mission Northwest when Ty Black started as a sophomore. They sniffed some stuff, and then last year they really broke through. And that's kind of what you got with Blue Valley Northwest. And I think that, Clint Ryder's a guy who won at the school he came from in Western Kansas. And I think that you got to sometimes with a program takes a talent dive, not necessarily just, the Zagunas who was there before, the talent. Sometimes you get some classes, even at Class 6 schools and 6A schools in Kansas, that you just don't get some kids you just don't get a good group of kids. And they, their numbers were down, and now they got them back up. The weight room, their weight room is really taken off in all their sports, and they really got a recommitment to that. And you're seeing it with Blue Valley Northwest. It's going to be tough to tell with the Blue Valley schools because they're only playing each other. So you're not really going to have a gauge, and they're going to have a hard time gauging where they're at. Like this week, Shawnee Mission Northwest and Aquinas had openings. They're going to play each other. What a great game that's going to be. I think that's fun, and hopefully Tank Young's going to play for Aquinas, and Blake Anderson might have dinged up. I don't know. They said he came out in that game on Friday, but it may have just been they were up on Raytown, and if he was nicked up, they kind of pulled him out. But no, it's the Blue Valley schools are going to be interesting because we just don't know. We won't know till playoffs. Not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that game. So let's start on the Kansas side for your RE/MAX Big Three in the Sunflower State. St. Thomas Aquinas hosting Shawnee Mission Northwest. I mean, there's some Aquinas kids who are in that Northwest district who could be playing for the Cougars.
Yeah, no, and this is kind of the group that Coach Bo Black has kind of pointed to. I mean, when he took that job over, I can't forget it's 5 or 6 years. I think his son was either in 7th or 8th grade, and he moved there, and they played middle school football together. All these kids played together, and then Ty's been starting since he was a sophomore year, and now he's a senior. This group that they've been building towards, and they got the offense first. The offense was going the last 2 years. They were able to score points. Now they've got the defense playing. Now, mind you, Shawnee Mission East and Shawnee Mission North are not St. Thomas Aquinas. And Coach Black, I've got a podcast I'll be putting up with him. He's on our show this week. And he said, I think that's one of the best defensive lines. Aquinas is one of the best defensive lines he's seen, just in terms of just pure talent. And they do. They have a great defensive line. And
Reeves, yeah.
Yeah, and so we kind of joked with him and, saying, how you tell Ty to get rid of the ball quick. And Coach Walmsgons, who does it with me, he's like, I'm sure Mama's told him, catch it and throw it and get rid of it. No, I think it's a great game for both of them. I mean, Coach Black is thrilled about it. And he said that he talked to Coach Dreiling, and they're both excited about the chance, just come out of it healthy, and they both will be better teams because of that game. Yeah,
absolutely. Also on the Kansas side, Olathe North and Gardner Edgerton meet up. Trailblazers was one of the biggest wins of the week last week in the area.
Yeah, they go to Mill Valley and get that win, and they're starting a freshman quarterback. I had to look again, and I talked with Coach Cornelson this week as well. They threw the ball 27 times, which is more than they threw it all last year.
Yeah.
And in fact, he made the joke that they have a freeze play where they try and draw teams offside, that they actually last year ran that play more than they threw the ball in games. They had a stat on that. So, yeah, they're changing things up a little bit. They've got a little different skill set with some of their kids. Olathe North, they had a tough game with Olathe. Olathe West is a pretty solid team. I think that they got kind of blown out by Lawrence. I think Lawrence is pretty good and was playing pretty well. We'll see how they come out of their 2-week quarantine when they play Bishop Carroll on Saturday. But, no, Olathe North is, they've lost the names, but they look the same. So it's definitely going to be a good one. And, and depending on how this, Gardner putting the ball in the air, they threw it a lot. They had some turnovers, but you saw them. I mean, they can do a lot of, and they turned over Mill Valley too. So it could be a crazy game, though Olathe North has the opportunity to really kind of control the pace of that game with the way they run the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Lawrence Free State and Mill Valley.
Yes, combined 0-5 between them.
Teams licking their wounds right now.
Yeah, and Free State's 0-3, and they've played good games. I mean, they've played Olathe North, DeSoto, and Lawrence, and Lee Summit North, and that's I wouldn't wish those three on anybody, especially a team that's rebuilding. And I think they feel like they've got their feet underneath them a little bit. They were a little more competitive than the score looked in Lee Summit North, and Mill Valley's coming off 2 losses in a row, and Cooper Marsh is. You'd be the expert to ask how long Cooper Marsh is out.
It could be one more week. It could be a few more. That's kind of up in the air. But I mean, that hit as they're driving in to tie the game against Bentonville, the hit while sliding, breaking 3 of his ribs, that might have cost Mill Valley 2 losses there.
And so they're a team that's looking to bounce back. And second week with the backup quarterback prop, I would assume they'll be a little smoother on things, and that will go well. And when you talk to Coach Stewart from Free State, he's like, He's like, look, he goes, I hate to see that for Cooper Marsh. He goes, but I'll be honest with you. He goes, the kid behind him is pretty good. So we know we've got to be ready to play. And, but he likes their team. He likes how they're playing, even though they're 0-3. And I think these are two teams. And if you're Free State, you go to the other side, just get better by week 8. And the other side of the state is not very good. Junction City is ranked, not in my rankings that I turn into K-Preps. They are ranked 4th. They played Washburn Rural to a 3-point game. And Free State, Lawrence was up like 30-0 at halftime on Washburn. If I'm Derby or anybody else over there, I don't want to see Lawrence, and probably don't want to see Free State in the second round. I mean, because Free State, by the time they get through with their schedule, because they've played some different, they went out and played Lee Summit North. They were going to try and play Lincoln Prep, but that game got canceled. I mean, they've got to have some losses, but they're a pretty solid team. Once they get some of their younger guys, kind of in place and get them up to speed, they're going to be pretty good. So. No, I think that's a Big 3 game with 5 in a row combined between the teams is not necessarily, but I mean, I'm like, no, these are two teams that are pretty solid, and this is going to be a good game.
On the Missouri side, we have Belton. We haven't talked much about the Pirates this year, and they're going to Raytown. Yeah,
they are, and they are a team that's coming off an 0-10, which is very uncharacteristic under Todd Vaughn, and this is his 8th year there now. He told us, he said that before last year, before the first 5 years he was there, they started out 0-2 just because of scheduling. I think they played Ray-Pac the first week as a rivalry for the first week. And he said, he goes, and they always got better. I mean, they were always like a late season team and would beat somebody in the first round of the playoffs that they probably shouldn't, and gave some teams like Battle, who went deep and won the state title, gave them all they could handle. Last year they had 9 seniors, no linemen in the senior group. This year they have 9 linemen who are seniors. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a different team. And their schedule has been soft. I mean, they played some teams that they should beat, but they've hammered them, including Fort Osage last week. They really could be 5-0. Ruskin, they didn't play Ruskin. Ruskin canceled on them on like 4 o'clock on a Friday. They had someone who had symptoms and it hadn't gotten the test back. So they said, hey, we're just not going to play, which was, the solid move. But Belton would have probably beaten Ruskin too. They played Raytown team's got 2 losses to Aquinas and North Kansas City. That's pretty good. And so this is going to be a good measuring stick for Belton. So I think Belton's a team, if they get this win, they still got Green Valley on their schedule. They've got some good games on their schedule left that they're going to have to play, but they're going to be a tough team. And that's a squad to keep an eye on as the season goes on. And Raytown at the same point. I mean, Raytown's a young team, but they've kind of been, they know the deal now here too. They've been doing this for the last few years.
Park Hill hosts Liberty North. A couple wins here for Liberty North. Can they kind of round into form and look more like the team we saw in 2019?
Their quarterback position is kind of settling down, and they're kind of finding their way. But then they get – I mean, this is the beauty of the Gold. Then you get a Park Hill team who played Lee Summit West to overtime, who went to Blue Springs and lost by 3 in a game I thought they probably would have won, but they just didn't match up well on the offensive line.
Pretty good 2-3 team, I would say.
Yeah, I mean – and then really their offense kind of clicked in last week, and they got things going, and they've got really one of the best weapons in the city in Jalen Noel. And now they've got a sophomore running back who stepped in, who's kind of got his feet underneath him, and they're moving the ball back and forth, and their quarterback is doing a good job of spreading it around. So now Noel's not getting double covered. That makes him a huge weapon. They know how to find a guy and get a ball who's really good, a la Ronnie Bell. They've done it before. And Liberty North is on a 2-game winning streak and playing really well. Park Hill just can't win back-to-back games. I mean, that's their thing. They're kind of win, lose. They've lost a couple in a row, and then one. So they're just – this is that middle class of the suburban Gold, where you just got to grind, and when you got a chance to beat somebody, and if you don't, go on to the next week and try and beat somebody the next week.
All right, and last but certainly not least here, Lee Summit West and Rockhurst. Lee Summit West has never beaten Rockhurst?
No, they're 0-3 in the playoffs 3 years in a row, 16, 17, and 18. Okay. Yeah, only played 3 times. The first time they ever played in the regular season. Lee Summit West finally went ahead and scheduled them. Congratulations. Welcome to the party. You're officially a big boy once you schedule Rockhurst. But they lost 3 years in a row, all 3 times in the playoffs at Lee Summit West, which means Lee Summit West was the higher seed each time they got beat. And part of the reason I think that they struggled is they didn't play them in the regular season. So it was everything on the line. It's Rockhurst. It's that, and sometimes, even at the high school level, even more, just the jersey across the field can get you beat sometimes. It doesn't really matter who's in it. Even if you're a better team, you can get beat that way. And you know what? Lee Summit West did that a lot to people in Class 5 and Class 4 when they were dominating. They just roll into some teams, and they'd see the Titan on the helmet and be like, "Oh man, we got no chance." And so, scheduling them in the regular season is a big thing. And coming off that Ray Peck win is even better too. They've got confidence. They're playing well, there's not a they get an easy team where they can come out and live off their laurels, and they know they got Rockers, and Rockers is playing well, and they got the Rockers is getting healthy, and they're getting better each week, and they jumped all over Bishop Miege last week. Bishop Miege is a good football team. They're 0-2.
0-2, yeah.
Yes.
Watch out for it, right? You get a 4-4 Bishop Miege team coming into.
I'm sure a lot of those teams that are sitting in 4A, who are looking like in the second round, thinking, "Oh wow, we got the 2 seed." And now you get in the second round and you're freaking playing Miege. And you're like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, one way to go. Lastly here, Missouri's Misha announced that they're changing venues for the Show Me Bowls for the state championship games. Who's moving where? What classes are moving?
They haven't said yet, but I theorize it will go like this. 1 and 2 will play at Blair Oaks. Blair Oaks is a Class 2/3 school. That's probably about the right size.
A football power in the small schools.
Yes. In fact, won the Class 2 title 2 years ago. I think it was. Yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And then the Jeff City Helias is another host. I would assume 3 and 4 would probably be there, and then 5 and 6.
Won a lot of state championships, yeah.
And the funny thing about it is, Blair Oaks and Helias have a legitimate chance to make it to the state championship game, so they can't play at home. So there may be some flip-flopping in there as well. I'm not sure what the schedule is going to be. I don't know if they're going to do the same schedule they had done. 6 will still play the weekend before, so I assume that'll be at Jeff City High. So, they could play 2 games at Jeff City if they needed to, and with 8-man and that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But no, I think for them, it's going to be a different experience. The fans should be able to pack I'm not sure what the fan situation is going to be. Tickets will be hard to come by. It may just be through your school, I would assume, just because of social distancing, thing like that. On the other hand, and you and I joked about this before we got going, media is going to be interesting because that's a high school press box, which generally means you get like 2 people, 2, 3, 4 media members up there, which nobody's in the press box right now anyway. It's going to be the first week of December. There's no guarantee it's going to be 65 degrees and sunny.
Press box.
Yes, outside the press box, they may have some seating areas set up. But here's one of the things I don't think people really realize when they either, if they've ever gone to one of these games, is that the smaller classes, Class 2, 3, and 4, if you go into the press box, whether it was Mizzou or the Edward Jones Dome, there are radio stations, these little town radio stations that cover these things every year, no matter who's playing. And there's like 7 or 8 radio stations that broadcast these games. And it's crazy because I remember, 5-6 years ago, I was down in St. Louis, and, there's just a lot of people there for the Class 3, or, it was like Class 4 had a lot of people there, and I was broadcasting that game. And then I went up and did radio for Class 6. And I got up to the press box in Class 6, and I'm like, where'd everybody go? It was like KCWJ here in Kansas City was doing it. And I think that I didn't even know if there was a St. Louis radio station that did it. And it was CBC and Blue Spring South. And really there was no, it was a webcast. So that a lot of people didn't get. So the KCWJ radio was like the only thing in Kansas City that people were getting on and online. And I remember Tom Cruise ironically texting me during the game saying, "Hey, keep up the good work. We're all like everybody, all the Kansas City coaches were listening to KCWJ." So no, it's going to be an interesting thing in terms of that. And you don't know, how the media situation is going to be, which is, if your fans can't go, the media is how we, contrary to what some school districts in the Metro Lee Summit might think, not having fans and limiting media is fighting against the same battle. Yeah. And that's something that, we ran into this week. We were told Lee Summit they could have 2 media outlets. And then I think that may have changed or something. And the district AD told me in an email, "Oh, we feel that's plenty of coverage." Well, first off, it's not his decision. It's not a district's AD decision to say how much coverage is the appropriate amount of coverage. Yeah. We're there to serve the fans and the people who can't go. And so we understand. And to make it sound like any of, your people or my people are an issue at a football game. Look, my staff is a bunch of pasty-faced guys who spend time in their basement. They're wearing, they're going to wear a mask and be socially distanced and do all that stuff. They don't want to get sick. They don't want to get anybody sick. Yeah. They want to go and do their job and inform the people who can't go. much like you guys are able to go and shoot videos so you can show highlights for people who can't go and sit at home on Friday nights and watch Haley, and you guys do the post game there on Friday nights, and the stuff we do on the web. So that's my little rant on that. And we've said, that being said, for most places we've been to, we've had no issues. I just feel like that some places have some issues that I don't think they're really looking at. So that's going to be a question for state, and it'll be a question at Kansas too. Now, Kansas, as far as I know, is still playing in Pittsburgh and Emporia, which are those college press boxes, which spread things out. In fact, I've heard that when you go to Pitt State, the suites at Pitt State is where they will put you sometimes if you are media members.
I've gotten the suites before. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, Sam McDowell told me, and this is a long time ago, he left town and he was in Springfield doing Missouri class 5, and then he took off and went to Pittsburgh the next day. And he's like, I get to Pittsburgh and goes, I'm in a suite by myself, got a little table there, got everything I need. And I was like, no, it's some of those little college campuses like Pittsburgh and Emporia have got little suite areas that they can put media in, and it's fantastic. So that's the gist here. Let's take care of the media. That's the first thing.
That's the point of this podcast.
Yes.
All right, we'll wrap this thing up. For Dion, Clisso, I'm Mick Shaffer. Be sure to catch all the high school coverage you can stomach this Friday night on 41 Action News and at PrepsKC.com, where we work together to try to get you as many highlights as possible. And then, of course, on the website, Dion, all the more than just scores, stats. I mean, how many games, how many teams do you have stats now?
Well, we're almost hitting we're getting close to that 50%. There's about 55 games a week. That's where we're kind of averaging right now. Yeah. Originally started out about 60, but now we're down to about 55. And we're getting about half of those teams, half of those games have got some sort of either live stats, or teams will load their stats in after the game, pretty close to it. They don't have a way to do it, live on the internet. And then of course we got, coverage of more than of almost half those games, whether it's story, video, stats, or roundup type stuff, 3-4 paragraph blurbs on those teams. So yeah, we're maxing out every week as much as we can, and getting out there and getting as much coverage, and great partnership with you guys as well. And we've done a pretty good job of helping each other out where we need to, and hitting some games that I'm at and you're not, and you're at and I'm not. And trust me, we could do 30 minutes on 41 every Friday night if we wanted to. We've got enough content.
Yeah. We got to get Fallon off the air, and we'll go to 11 o'clock.
Yes. Or, the news guys, they can take a night off. It's not like our Supreme Court justice is dying or anything like that on a Friday night.
The weather is just fine always in the city. We don't need to report on that. All right, Dion, we appreciate the time.
It's always fun.
You as well for joining us on Snap Tackle Pod.